Welcome. Hi there. My name is Mike Giannotti, and today I am joined. We have on audio. We're going to try some video stuff with him. But Dave, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, Dave Upton, collaboration TSP here at Microsoft. Work with Mike.
And so we want to welcome you to our Modern Workplace Fire Away Friday. You're going to see me looking over here where I have a view to my screens. But welcome today. We are trying something a little bit new for today's broadcast. So a couple of housekeeping items to kind of bring up and get you to be able to interact with us as we go, because this is a Fire Away Friday. Ask all your questions that you have around collaboration. So today we're actually streaming to you live using Microsoft's live events, but through Teams. This is a first time for Dave and I doing this. We used anonymous access, public out on the web. So, if you want to interact with us during the broadcast, what you need to do is this. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, I'm assuming you're in a web browser, you'll see there is a little icon with a question mark. And if you click on that, that's going to open up the moderated Q&A. So from there, you'll be able to post questions. We'll be able to see those, respond to those. We would love to hear from you. If you want to give a shout out, just say hello, who you are, where you're watching from. We've had viewers for some of these broadcasts worldwide, so love to hear from you. So feel free to do that. If you have questions at any time, post them there. We want to take your questions around collaboration. We also have on our side OneNote available in our interface, so we can take, if there's something that we can't answer on the fly. Somebody says they are hearing an echo. That might be Dave. You want to mute your mic unless you're answering. So I'm going to assume that's
Going
Dave.
on mute now. Let's see if it helps fix it.
So there we go. So Dave has muted his mic. I'm going to assume the echo's gone. Again, this is a first time try for us. Dave's remote at his house. So, if you have questions, feel free to post those, and thank you for, bringing that up. That's the kind of thing we'd like to see. So Dave's actually replying. So that's a great thing. He'll be moderating the Q&A during today's session. We have a full session for you today, a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and we're going to kick that off. And again, last thing, if you have questions at any time, please look down, open the Q&A. If you don't know where it is, upper right-hand corner, there's a little question box. I'll refer to it from time to time. In the upper right-hand corner, you click that, you'll get a little side panel, and you can post moderated questions, and we will address those as we go, because this is your time. So I'm going to go ahead and begin to advance through our presentation. So to start off, for today's agenda, I'll just go ahead and build this out. We're going to kick off with our Modern Workplace Top 3, as we always do. With the Moderated Workplace Top 3, we're going to cover the top 3 stories. I actually cheated this week. We're going to have one additional that I saw just this morning. I was like, I can't not talk about this. But we'll kick that off with top 3 around collaboration stories. Love to hear your questions and stuff during that. Then we're going to get into our modern workplace tips. For today, we are going to cover what we're doing right now. Microsoft Live events, how to go ahead and start to work with them in your own org. They rolled out the preview, so if you have access to those early access bits where you can take a look at what's up and coming, you can start to play with this stuff within your own org, get your arms wrapped around it and start to work with it. We're going to take a look at how you set it up within Microsoft Stream, within Yammer, and within Microsoft Teams like we're doing right now. After that, open forum Q&A where you can ask anything around collaboration, and Dave and I will do our utmost to address that. And, finally, we'll wrap up and talk about the next session, which will be in 2 more weeks. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into our top 3. So kicking it off for our top 3, the first thing is around customer lockbox. Microsoft rolled out this concept in Office 365 of a customer lockbox that allowed you really to lock down who had access to data, how things would be accessed. But they've now added, one of the things that we got asked about was having an approver role specific to that customer lockbox. The reason being, oftentimes that person was not the person who would be an admin typically within the tenant. And in the past, they had to actually be a global admin. So customers asked, look, we want to break that out, have a specific role around customer lockbox. That is now available. You can take a look. I'll have a link here. We'll have that after the broadcast. You'll be able to take a look, click on the link, and learn more about that. But that's big news for a lot of folks who wanted that. It's live. Take advantage. And that's that. That's number 3. Coming in at number 2. I love this one. So again, based on customer feedback, and I don't know how to say this, any more emphatically than I'm going to do. We want to know what you want in Office 365. The product teams are looking at user voice. They are taking your feedback in Microsoft user voice and through the customers, and they're inputting that into those cycles as they rev and iterate and deliver new features and functions to give you value as a customer. We had a lot of customers asking about, Microsoft, look, what can you do to, help with workflow, a guided workflow where we combine some of the steps when we delete a user so we can retain their documents, retain their email, and not have it be this disjointed experience, which is what it was. I know, Dave, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add on that, but I know you as a customer previously, you had to deal with some of this, correct?
I did, and we actually dealt with it through policy as well. So we were pretty strict on who could see what after an employee left. So, having the ability to walk through obviously a wizard type interface to say, okay, this person can see it, this person can't see it, their data is going to be retained, is definitely key. We did some things in SharePoint. Obviously, as anybody knows, OneDrive, you need to do some settings if you want to be able to have a manager own the content when someone leaves. But, at a higher level, it's nice to be able to do something like this now.
Yeah, and I guess that's the point, right? Really make it a lot more streamlined, bring it together. So take a look. We actually there's all this new interface that'll allow you to do that. Again, after the broadcast, we'll have the links, all this in the archive, and it'll be posted almost immediately once we finish. So be sure to take a look and take advantage of that. That's number 2 in our top 3. At number 3, and I love this, what's new in Microsoft Teams? The reason why I put their roundup one is because this is kind of cheating as well. It's kind of bringing a whole bunch of them into one. There was tons of new news that came out, not the least of which, and I love this, is if you look down in there, is one of them talks about having Teams is now free. So not for at the enterprise space, but when we talk about Microsoft Teams being able to get out there and to have it available for, nonprofits, small little groups, maybe it's your kid's sports team or club or something else, you're able to actually stand up a team, pull people together and start to work on it. And I actually did that just last week, put one together, and I'm onboarding the group that I went to Haiti on. So that for Haiti missions and stuff we're doing around that, people will be able to collaborate, share documents, be able to do chats while they're up in the hills of Haiti on 3G and all that good stuff. So Teams is available, but some other great things.
Real quick, just to highlight with that. So two specs on that. Teams available for free up to 40 in 40 languages today, and for up to 300 people. So when you're talking about that team, sports team, you're never going to really hit 300 people unless you're including every parent and basically every team member from every team in your org. So obviously, a lot of people you can put on that free version. So.
Yeah, that's a good point because you can scale, and that's what we were looking at too. Is gee, we're going to hit a cap in a 300. That's a pretty big amount. Obviously you have less space, than you have. But again, we'll have links to all that. You'll be able to go and check this one out. But a couple other things, PowerPoint in meetings, if you're having a meeting, just got a little better. So, with PowerPoint, now when you share the PowerPoint, it's actually leveraging that, those Office web apps in the back end, so that people now, instead of it getting pushed out as a kind of almost a screen grab, people can actually toggle, and you can allow them, they can go back and forth and take a look at it, preview pieces, review pieces that you've already passed, and be able to control it on their end as well as what you push out. Auto attendant is a big one that customers, who are big into voice, were asking about. So auto attendant and call queues right out of Teams, that's there. New apps in Teams, there were some requests around Jira, Bitbucket, Mail Clark, and a number of others. The other one that been getting great response showing customers is around the whole new fully integrated call analytics dashboard. That's new, and it's rocking. And getting to that unified dashboard for Skype and Teams, where you can take a look at that, that's out there. A whole bunch of features. Be sure to take a look. The last one I'm just going to kind of highlight is there is new IT Pro training for Microsoft Teams. If you're really looking to get ramped up, want to be that subject matter expert in leveraging Teams in your org, take a look, get on board, and you can deliver it as well. And the one more, I cheated. I saw this morning. I was like, I cannot not mention this. There is a post that just got posted 2 days ago that I had not seen, and it is on 4 steps to engage employees with the new live events in Microsoft 365. So we're engaging you guys publicly right now, but this is really talking about engaging within your workforce. And they break it down into 4 areas, primary ones, and then they have some additional content. But really the first is using live events to kickstart interactive discussions across your organization. And that's kind of this picture you see here where it's integrated with Yammer itself. So you've got a whole Q&A thing where in the past we would do what we called Yam Jams, where people would, kind of curate and kick off and then curate a whole discussion thread around a topic and get people, engaged. How much richer when you're facilitating that through a video. And so, but the beauty of it is when you're doing it within the context of Yammer, you can have people pre-event starting to prime the pump and asking questions in anticipation. They can do it during event and post-event, all in one piece. Fostering sustained dialogue in open communities is another one. And again, kind of that whole idea about leveraging the whole community aspect. Then they also have create an intranet site for leaders. And this is really around creating that unified piece using, creating a website in SharePoint, but where we can now share videos, live stuff, news, resources, blogs, on-demand videos, all that in one place. And it's really around facilitating. And I remember, if I think back years ago, one of the SEC financial services clients I had, and think of how this would work in the health and life sciences piece. The exact same. They had a executive who had their own site where they were doing video, they were doing blogging and resources and, posting information about state of their business. It was a global services group within this financial services org of about 40,000 within that. But if you think about some of these, I work with some of the large multinational pharma and some of these hospital chains where we have these experts in their field. Think about different physicians, the head of cardiology or some other department. Great opportunity to allow them to connect with their colleagues, with other employees within the org, and to bring it all together. And then finally, they have a section around planning corporate communications and measuring the impact. Again, we'll have the links to this. Take a look at it. Love to talk to you about it. And with that,
real quick, I'd like to add to that 1 second, Mike. As obviously for those that are in the process of rolling out Microsoft Teams and getting adoption, that is a great opportunity to, just get your feet wet, do some live events, do some, inside training within your company. you start the forum, you'll have other users, your power users that'll also be able to contribute, may actually want to host their own live events within their teams. So it really sparks interest if you start doing it as a team owner, basically. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's funny, I just saw we have a list of questions. So before we get into the tips, people are already starting to ask some things. I see you were responding directly to them, but in case people have not gone to their upper right, this is all new, so we'll keep referring back. Go to your upper right-hand corner where you see the little question mark and kind of a dialog box. If you click that, moderated Q&A. Do you want to queue any of that up and we'll talk about it briefly?
Yeah, so we have one, actually, I think it was just really one question, and it was around private channels. We've all been waiting on this private channels. I'll tell you this, I know that they have a solution defined amongst all the teams that are involved with making that happen. And from my understanding, it is under development. So other than that, no date has been announced. So I was talking to a product guy the other day, though, so I did get confirmation that they do have an agreement on a solution, and they're working on it. So it's good to hear there's progress being made on it. So it touches, if you think about what all it touches a lot of things on the back end. Obviously, SharePoint not necessarily being built for that structure. It is going to take some work. So
yeah, so we don't have a date. It is on the public roadmap, hence why we can talk about you can talk about some of the stuff you've seen, but we don't have a date. So again, stay tuned. As soon as we hear about it and we're able to share that, we'll definitely be sharing that. That brings the place to look for all this stuff. If you're in healthcare and life sciences, be sure to be following our blog, right? Join the community there. As soon as we hear things, we'll let you know. All right, so the first thing, we're going to get into our modern workplace tips. So I told you that today we're going to be covering Microsoft Live events, what we are doing today. We're delivering live events here via Teams. But we're going to take a look at what Microsoft is calling the intelligent event capabilities in Microsoft 365. This whole idea that live should be contextual to the method of delivery and readily put in there. So we're going to take a look at how we can do live events via stream. Then we'll take a look at how it can be done via Yammer and then via Teams. Obviously, since we are live streaming using live events, I can't on my laptop open and conduct those. It'll blow up our events that we're doing. So what I did was I went through all this the other day, the whole setup configuration. I grabbed screenshots of everything. Some I'll be on for like 2 seconds to say, click this next. But as we go through questions, fire them away. This is Fire Away Friday. We want to hear. So go ahead, fire those off, and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to talk about those 3 areas. Dave's going to jump in as well. And then finally, at the end, I'll talk about how you can actually extend beyond the 3 that are there. And they allude to it in that last post that I gave you, but around creating some custom experiences that are possible, pulling in other things like Pulse, Microsoft Pulse, and other extensions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the 3 that we're going to look at. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about 3 primary areas. We're going to start off with corporate communications. I'm kind of breaking them down into what I call my own verbiage, doing things via stream, and that'll become apparent why I say corporate communications. Then we'll talk about executive or community connections via Yammer, and then team delivered broadcasts via Teams. So starting off, the first is corporate communications via stream. The reason why I talk about this being corporate communications, and this will become apparent as we kind of walk through the views. When we want to deliver a webcast, I'm delivering one here. Microsoft really is focusing today on 2 primary groups for delivery. Those who have domain expertise around streaming, who know and understand and have experience and using something called RTMP, which is the industry standard for pushing stuff up. And there is a range of tools, hardware and software, that allow us to do that. So, for example, we have partners like NewTek who create the TriCasters, Studio in a Box. They can go right from their boxes, which are very sophisticated with multi-camera, remote, shared desktops, all kinds of virtual scenes where they can make you look like you're on a piazza in Italy while you're delivering, all that good stuff. And they can now push directly to Microsoft Live Events. But that, there's also tools like OBS, which is a free piece of software you can download, OBS Studio. I actually have it on my desktop. That allows you to do picture-in-picture. I could have, for example, 8 different camera feeds, toggle between them, have, one big picture and 5 or 6 different pictures of different sizes within it. Very sophisticated delivery again. But that takes for granted that you understand what you're doing, right? So there's that type of a delivery, which if you think about corporate communications, they're doing, CEO broadcasts and other things like that. There is a level of expectation that they're sophisticated in their delivery via that. So with Stream, the native, that's the audience they're targeting, these corporate communication type events where it's sophisticated. The other we'll get into in a bit is really the one like we're doing today, which is via Teams as the client, where all I need is the Teams client. And we'll see how that plays. But let's walk through the Stream one. So to select the Stream one and to begin to broadcast it, if you have early access, this is the view you'll see. If you look here in this screen view, when you click the drop down, it'll no longer just say upload a video. You'll see live event, and it'll say preview because we're still in preview. You'll go ahead, and when you click live event, it's going to bring you to this view. This is the producer view, as it says right here, where you can go in, and now we can do some things like give it a title, give it a name, add a description. We can upload an image here so that it will have a preview, right? A view to it, not just a black screen with that title. The next is video language. This is important. You want to select the broadcaster's, presenter's language, and we have a whole wealth of them. The reason is, once this video is complete and we make it gets moved into Stream as on demand, closed captioning will be available. So it's going to run through, do closed captioning. If you have access to the transcription, right? So you can see the transcript and search within it. If you're an E5 customer, well, then you'll be able to also do video search within the video. That'll all be there. So you want to pick the primary language being delivered. The next piece is start event, right? So with that, we can pick a specific start time. If you click that drop down, you'll also have the option of saying when the encoder gets kicked off. So you can just do it, say as soon as we're ready, kick this off, or pick a start date and time. I like that because once you're all finished, you get the option to share and one of the options is email, and it'll have all that meeting information right within it. Finally, we have some other views of permissions, and we'll take a look at that as we kind of go through. So here you can see I've gone ahead and I added information. I gave the title, I gave the description, I uploaded the image, English, I have the specific. I didn't pick the time and date, I should have here, but now we can go ahead and begin to add some additional information like permissions. You'll notice here we can allow everyone in the company, it's an all company view, or specific, when you click this, specific groups, channels, the show and stream, or people. So we can pick any of those three, and then we can add specific elements that we want to have access to and not the whole org. Or in our case, we selected all org, so anybody who has a link can go right to that. Once we've done that, we can then select some options. Now, it's important to note what these options are actually calling out. And the reason why I mention that is when I was demonstrating this live to a client the other day, they thought that when it said comments, that meant comments live in line. In fact, if you look here, it says features such as auto generation of captions, transcript, people, and comments will be applied after your live event ends. That means in the on-demand view, you'll have comments enabled. You'll have the people, which is, again, we'll do facial recognition. You can see when people appear. That's if you have E5, or you get the step-up add-on. And then we have the comments turned on, and then finally auto-generated captions file, so people can do closed captions for accessibility. Once you're done, we come down below, and you can either save or click Publish Now.
Hey, Mike, we got a question coming in.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to allow for Stream to do public videos, which can be embedded on public websites? Do you know?
So we do. That's been a request. We are allowing right now. As you can see, I'm doing a public-facing video. So that's been a request, and it's ongoing. If you'd like to discuss plans around that, what I would say is this: you need to contact your Microsoft sales team, request a briefing with your collaboration TSP, like myself or Dave Upton or whoever's in your area, and then those TSPs can talk to you under non-disclosure agreement. I'm not aware of what's published right now in this regards to our roadmap or not, so I can't really comment publicly on that, except to say Dave dropped his video. Wow. I'm looking at my producer view. In fact, Dave just dropped. So at any rate, yeah, I can't really comment on that today. So as soon as I am able to, we will comment publicly on whether that is or isn't. It has been requested, so I can tell you that much. All right, continuing on. As we look here, you can see here that we have, and Dave might have, and just so everybody knows, we are having very bad thunderstorms up in the Northeast right now. I've had power flicker here, so if we do get killed, cut off here, you'll know why. But Dave, it looks like he may have suffered from that. So we'll just keep going. Continuing on, so the next screen here, you can see once we've gone ahead and either saved or published, we get this view. This has now set us up for encoder setup. This is important. When we do a stream video, a stream live video, we're going to be using an encoder, whether that's a hardware solution or a software solution, means it's independent. And it's one of many that are out there on the market. We have some that we've listed. I've actually got a link. I've already got my post live blog post ready to go with the archive of this and have links to it. But we have a number of different partners for hardware and software. Again, I use OBS, which is a free solution that I can do right on my laptop, makes my laptop a studio out of the box. There's other software ones like Wirecast. Then there's companies like Blackmagic, like NewTek with TriCasters and many others. But there are a range of different ones that we can do. And all they need is this right here. It's this server ingest URL. Notice it says RTMP, real-time messaging protocol. And so that's the industry standard. So people who see like YouTube Live, they see Facebook Live, Periscope, they see there's all kinds of different public services you can pay for doing live ones. They're all using RTMP. So industry standard, we've now brought it on board here. So no longer do you have to do end arounds like we did with Skype meeting broadcast to push out. You can simply get the server ingestion URL, and notice we even have two, so you can have set up a solution with failover. You're going to grab that, and then you're going to put that into your utility. Once you've got everything set up and published, you can now share it. Again, here's that send an Outlook invite, so you can send one out. You can customize that. When we click the share, you can get a link that you can put on a web page within your corporate intranet and embed code. More about that a little bit later, but that's important. You can take that embed code and you can embed the video right on a web page, right, internally. So we have that. Somebody said, thanks. You said to contact the sales rep to get a conversation with a collaboration TSP. Yes, that's what I said. So it's one of your collaboration technology specialists who cover your area, and they can talk to you about that. Also, I would highly encourage you to take a look at the blog for Stream, the Stream blog. They're doing regular AMAs or Ask Me Anything sessions online. So that's something you can ask them. All right, continuing on. So once we've gone ahead and shared, we can, again, take that, re-put that elsewhere, or send the Outlook invite to our org. Then to initiate the live event, it's pretty simple. First, you're going to select Start, Setup from that page. Once the setup initiates on the encoder, you're going to initiate a stream. Then you're going to, once the stream is initiated from the encoder to stream, you're going to click Begin a Live Event. It's going to then look like this, and people will be able to go ahead, they can view it and watch it, and then it will be made available for on demand once everything is finished, like you see here. So this was a case of where I did a live event right out of my my home office here. Got a little caught up. My home office here, and so I was able to go ahead, stream that out live. Once it was done, it was available on demand, and people could actually go ahead, click. They got closed captioning and the whole bit. So I've got a link again in that follow-up blog post. It'll kind of walk you through some of those steps. Love to help you if you're one of our customers here in healthcare and life sciences. So think about that. Moving on, next is Yammer. So executive or community connections when you want to use integration within Yammer. So here we're taking a look at Yammer, and you can see we have some group events. These were live events that we actually set up and I delivered, but it's all predicated off this. Again, with the preview, you can see create a live event, gets surfaced right here within Yammer, but it's a little different in our setup. We're actually going to get two different options. When we click that, it's going to ask, do you mean to switch apps? It's launching Microsoft Teams. The reason why it's launching that is Teams has access to Exchange and calendaring and some of those other things. So it's going to leverage that and some of its functionality to set it up. I just got a question. Does the live events in Yammer have a moderation feature? Our leaders were hesitant to use the live events in Yammer because it appeared there might not be moderation feature for Q&A for live events in Yammer. They want a screen. So that's a great question. I would say to you, if you don't want to do that in Yammer and have the Yammer post, because Yammer doesn't have typical moderation, then you might want to use a custom one like I'm going to show you at the very end. Okay, so hold that thought. So you might want to not use it within Yammer, but set it up in Stream and deliver it via that. So here we're going to go ahead. We're going to click and move on. And it says new live event preview. So we're going to go ahead. It allows us, this is the scheduling feature within Microsoft Teams. So I gave it a name, give it a description, invite people to your team. This is where I have invited Dave, who has since disappeared. Dave is gone. But you can add additional team members who could be moderators, etc. We click next. Then we get some options. Now notice this now for Yammer has two different options. I can do quick start, which means I'm going to deliver it via Teams. I don't have domain expertise. It's going to use the Teams client to quickly set up, and we'll see what that looks like. We're going to do it here. And then to be able to broadcast without any domain expertise. Or I can click external encoder. Then I use something like OBS or some other piece of software. So that's all available. Down, go ahead and then go ahead and schedule it. Once we've done that, we then get this interface, which is going to be the join for all the event members, not my users, the event team members. Notice though, I get this, get an attendee link. This is what the link that I'm going to send out post. I'm also going to get a view, you'll see it in a second, in Yammer to all of this. But when I click attendee link, I can send them to Teams, like you're all watching via the Teams and the web. I can send them there, or I can send them directly to the Yammer view. Now, for directly within Yammer itself, within that Yammer group, over on the right-hand side, that group events, you're going to see here, these are these live events we've been posting. So here's the one that I actually built out for this. It says demo, Yammer stream. And when we click that, it brings us to this view. Comment or ask a question. Notice this is purple. The reason why it's purple is because I chose Teams as the method of streaming. If I had chosen the encoder, instead I'd have a video, a window video placeholder, right? That would show me right in line there, that view. So it depends on which choice you made. Am I somebody who's going to use the richer view via an encoder, or am I going to use Teams to do it? So I picked Teams, so I got this particular view. For me, then, as the producer, and actually this is what I'm looking at, a similar view right now, it then allows me to go ahead and to begin to broadcast via the Microsoft Teams client. So to kick it off, I go ahead and here's my video, and there's the little window there. I can add content, share it. It's actually being covered here right now by this. Your speakers are muted. Under that, it says share, and you can go ahead and say you want a desktop or some content, share that there, and then I can have this in a talking head, or I can simply go to here and do either a full screen of perhaps that PowerPoint or a full screen talking head. I have the choice, right? When I'm ready, I click send live, and it's going to then give me the preview of what the live event looks like. Notice above, I have views I can click, since this is Yammer, I can see the Yammer conversations that are taking place right up here in the upper right. I can click and get a view of the OneNote, so we can take notes. We can have, shared OneNote from here. I also can do the chat view, right? So people can converse via Teams, and then I can add people to this particular call. When I start the broadcasting, and I'm sharing this desktop here, I had to share that to show it. From a user standpoint, since they were clicking this, they're going to see this view, right? So they get this view where they can go ahead, they see my desktop that I'm sharing, and then they see my video. They also get the Yammer view. If they click that, they get the view of the Yammer channel on the side here, and they can pose questions. But to your point earlier, it does go into Yammer. This is not moderated Q&A. This is Yammer, right? So in this case, if there's a concern on this, this is where you want to facilitate those live, open community conversations or connections via Yammer. If you don't want that, then you're going to do something a little different, like we're doing here. You're actually getting that here as well. Where we can go ahead and have that or not. So like people are posting questions here, and I'm not posting those out to everybody, so you only see what we're sharing. Moving on. So that's the Yammer one. The last one is Teams itself, delivering via Teams. So for the question from Eric about, do it via Yammer or do you want moderation? There's really two ways to do moderated. One is through a custom view with Stream that I'm going to show at the end. And then the other is via Teams. So right now we get moderated Q&A in Teams, right? So in your org, and people can join via that Teams, either the client or the web UI. So the way that it works in Teams you go in and you click a new event just like normal. But now, new meeting, if you click that, you get a drop down. An option is a new live event, doing it right out of Teams. Once you do that, you can give it a title, give it a description. Again, you can invite members, and I see Dave has rejoined. I don't see his video and he's on mute, but that's all right. So it looks like he's coming back on the scene. Then when I click, once I select that and click next, now I get live event permissions. Do I want people or groups? This is internal, right? Specific people or groups internally in your org. Is it an org-wide? So, you know, Eric, this might be the option that you choose, especially getting your feet wet. You might not be ready for a full studio view like in OBS or TriCast or something else. In Teams, I can have moderated Q&A like we're doing here by selecting org-wide and then using Teams to actually facilitate and push out. I can also select here a public live event, what we're in right now. Then I also have the option, do I want a quick start? Use Teams, that's what we're using here. Make a video available for download, video on demand, Q&A, which is the moderated Q&A, right? And then, or do I want an external encoder, which would again be something like TriCaster or OBS, you know, Wirecast, some other piece of software. So I get all those options. Once I'm done, I click schedule. Having done that, then I get an attendee link, and my event participants get this view where they can click join. Now with this attendee link, actually I want to go back. Let's go back to previous. If I click this attendee link, I just want to highlight something. The link it gives you by default is actually going to bring you to a web page that's going to prompt a pop-up, do you wish to switch apps? It's actually looking for, since it's Teams, it's looking for the Teams application. You can say no and then join via the web view, in which case it then brings you to a view to join anonymous, since I did public, anonymous, or log in. But I wanted to highlight that because if you don't want users to see that particular intermediary step, you can click and get that link where you say no and then join, and it'll bring you to the view where it allows them to join anonymously or log in. It's up to you. So that's available for the public ones, for anonymous, right? If they're internal, it'll join them and it's going to authenticate them and bring them in if it's an internal delivery. But that's going to bring you and give you that capability for, again, moderated Q&A. So that would work for you, Eric. I hope that answered your question around Teams gives you moderated Q&A built in, just like we're doing now with you and others who've been asking questions. But there's other opportunities to customize the experience using Stream, the first one we showed, grabbing the embed code and putting some other things. And before I highlight that, Eric just asked, can viewers join an MS Teams live event from the Teams mobile app? So that is why you might not want to skip that and grab the link like I did for this one. So if I had given the original link, it actually, if somebody had joined via an iOS device, that's what would have happened. It would have clicked and joined them via this and not via here. So the short answer is yes. Can they participate in Q&A via the mobile app? That I have not checked, so I'm going to take a note of that and look that up. Unless, Dave, you haven't looked at that piece, have you?
I have not, and I was, as Mike, you jinxed me, because prior to this call, Mike said he's got a really bad storm going on up there, and he wanted to make sure everybody knew that if he lost connection, you know, that's why. Well, it just so happened that I lost internet connection, so I'm actually going off my phone right now, so I really don't want to play with the app on my mobile phone right now.
So wait a minute, so you're in via the mobile phone?
No, I'm hotspotted with my laptop. I did actually click on the link on my mobile phone, and it was firing up the meeting, the live broadcast on my phone. So that actually was loading, but I wanted to get back in and have my computer. So
cool. So yeah, so we'll double check on that for you, Eric. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to assume yes because it's designed to do that. But you know what they say about assumptions. So I will go ahead. We'll double check, and I'll add that to the post. But the short answer is yes, you can join via the mobile app and participate. In fact, in all of these, even in the other ones with regular stream, remember, we're using HTML5 for the delivery, plug-in free. So if it's via the web, not in this one, because it's wanting with the Teams, it's a little different. But if we have users, for example, who, you set it up via stream or via Yammer, they can do it right off of here. And I've done some internal ones with tests around that. So our last is really around customizing. So remember, we set up the first one off of stream. And one of the things I said, share, you get an embed code. With that, we can do some pretty interesting things. So if we move on, once we have embed code, think about this. You have a communication site set up or it could be just your modern web view for your corporate intranet. But here what I did was, as one way of doing this, create a news item, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I click add news. And once I do, I get this news piece. And you can see in the background here, I've already gone in, I gave it a title. You can see a little bit of that. I gave a background image, but then we get the web part view, right? Where we can click these pluses and add modern web parts. And so here, in this case, and actually, Dave, can you mute your mic? Because we don't want to get and then just unmute when you're talking. Let's see.
I'm muted.
There we go. I didn't want to get feedback because we'd had that earlier. So with this, there are a whole host of embedded things we can do. We can create a page with mix and match all kinds of web parts, including embed. So that's where we're going to use to embed our video. But notice we can embed associated files. Maybe it's a PowerPoint, maybe it's a Word doc, or something else. We can add images, text around this. We can have highlighted content, maps. We can add Kindle Instant Preview, right? Somebody's highlighting and they're talking about maybe like we just had. Actually, where's my book? Oh shoot, I had it over here. My reset. Oh, here it is. Maybe you're reading Hit Refresh by Satya Nadella. Brought to you by a bookstore near you. Maybe, they're talking about this new book that just came out from one of your corporate executives. And we actually gave these to employees. We had an employee edition, right? It says employee edition. So because it was important for our employees to understand the vision of Satya. Well, maybe you're talking about that. You could have Kindle preview portions that are highlighted and have them embedded in. All kinds of good stuff, including forms, or maybe you create a Microsoft Pulse for sentiment analysis. So what I did in this particular example was I embedded the video, and then I created a Microsoft form with a pre-formatted survey. Now, I could have had questions that were text in nature. I could have had, here I have multiple, you pick a choice. So going back to Eric, again, you want to have it controlled. You could pre-format using a form and embed it right in there, have those questions pre-done as you go. Or create a Microsoft Pulse, right? If you're not familiar with it, go to pulse.microsoft.com. Log in, practice making a pulse. They have embed so that you can go ahead and they give you the embed code and could drop that in, have pre-formatted questions, and then somebody actually pulses the questions when you're ready. We do that internally for Microsoft employees. Lots of options here you can put in. You could create just a SharePoint list, right? And turn on approval so that somebody who has, the ability, has admin access on it, could have a console looking at the list and, as questions come in, seeing that as they're popping in, but nobody sees them unless they're approved, right? So moderation, lots of options, but in a custom view, you can do all that. Having said all that, we have 10 minutes. I know people had questions around Teams, around the streaming live. So this is your time to ask anything about anything you've seen or about anything in collaboration. Covered a lot today and tried to go as quickly as we could, but I hope that you do use live events. If you are a Microsoft customer, you're a healthcare and life sciences customer here in the Northeast, either Dave or myself would love to work with you. And I'm already working with a couple of customers on delivery and different methods of pulling in different clients as potential points around this. I'm actually working with one of my customers now with using Surface Hubs, which is kind of cool. But questions, and I see they're starting to come in. So for the first one, what is the best way to guide employees to the right tool when it comes to Teams versus Yammer? Many employees are getting confused when it comes to that question. That's a great one. So I have my thoughts. Dave, did you want to jump on this? I'm going to give you right of first refusal or taking it.
Yeah, so I'll add my input and you can add yours. We might have two different perspectives on it. But so Teams, I like to tell users, if you're working within, the smaller groups within your organization, or even if you wanted to branch out and have cross organization, but more directed towards smaller teams, and you want to do much more than just have conversations, then you're going to use Teams. Because Teams brings that capability of adding the tabs and adding the other apps and integrations and connectors, brings in a lot more than just a discussion, or again, a live event that's going to have a conversation. So it's much broader than just that. Now, if you want to do something that crosses the entire org or the whole company, you want to reach out, you want to make things public so that others in the organization can find it. Then you want to drift over to Yammer, and that's where you're going to create these larger groups where you may have people from all different organizations within your company that want to contribute, want to hear what's going on, want to know what you're doing. So that's when you want to use Yammer, and maybe you're going to post news articles and keep people up to date with what you're doing and spark interest in those conversations. So there's my 2 cents.
That's spot on. So, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. It's really around Teams is around where you work. It's focused on where you think about it. Number one, it's the replacement for probably 80 to 90% of what you did in SharePoint team sites, right? You're sharing content, documents, you may be doing versioning, you extend it with project plans and calendaring. It's where you work focused on team activities. And those teams can get large, but they are a focused group focused around getting something done. Like Microsoft, our account teams dealing with our accounts, they have a team for an account, and they're focused on the work that goes around working with that and partnering with that account. We have teams for some of our organizational groups as they're doing things organizationally. Yammer, though, topical discussions that span potentially the entire organization. Employee self-service and help. Like we have ones, if you have questions around Office 365, around Word, around Excel, PowerPoint, around different things working at Microsoft. They're groups where there's subject matter experts attached, but it's really around conversation and employee self-service, asking questions, getting answers at a very broad level, not focused on getting that work done. So thank you, Dave. That was spot on. Other questions? I hope that answers your question, Eric. And again, if this is something that you would like for, here in the Northeast, Dave and I love to work with our healthcare and life sciences customers around these kind of questions and helping to put those kind of parameters and what makes sense where. And it may differ a little bit org to org. That's the beauty. The beauty of it is the tools are very flexible. So it may depend on what you're doing. So keep that in mind. If you're not in the Northeast in healthcare and life sciences, you're in the Northeast, some other group, or you're anywhere else, contact your Microsoft rep and get your TSPs, your technology specialists, we're acronym happy, in collaboration involved, and help them to work with you around getting that kind of those fences and parameters around what you use when and where. I don't see any more questions. I don't know, Dave, was there anything that you want to talk about just off the top of your head? I'm going to show one quick thing before you talk, because I have to do this. So if you're getting preview bits of Teams, sometimes you're in a meeting and there's sensitive data in back of you. Presto Changeo, the blur feature. You may start to see this soon. We talked about it, and here it is. I am blurred, so I can talk. It's kind of using similar to chroma key, but makes it kind of like a portrait view, but everything in back is blurred, so no detail becomes apparent. So I'm doing that in a live broadcast. You can do that in real time. Dave, anything you wanted to highlight, talk about?
Yeah, actually, just one quick thing. So if you were reading the recent blog updates for August, I have a little bit of confusion on my own on the wikis versus OneNote. But if you are trying to play with the wiki feature in Teams, mine didn't show up like the instructions kind of said, go into the more apps on the left-hand menu. But what I was able to do is just do the /wiki and then post a quick note, and then it showed up. So anybody that's playing with that and wants to look at that feature, that you might have to do that within your Teams app. So otherwise, I highly recommend looking at, obviously, that blog. It will keep you up to date on what's coming out. I also recommend looking at, as Mike was going over, obviously, the new live streaming, go to the Teams and Skype's new admin interface, and you'll see that you can actually build some policies around live streaming. So go check that out. And if you hit the home page on that new Teams and Skype admin center, there are two, at least there were for me, there's two videos on the right-hand side, or two links to get to admin training and then user training. Highly recommend that, again, post those out to your Yammer groups or your teams and let them, your users know that there's training available within there. And they're really just links out to the Docs Microsoft page, but loads of information.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed those out, because I actually so it's already, I have links to those that are going to show up in the after the effect. I got another question here, and it says, can people using the free version of Teams attend a live public event in Teams? So the short answer is yes. I have not tested it in the Teams client per se, so that's a great question for us to test out and to do some follow-up on, and we'll do that. I'll take a look. I'm going to grab, we had a couple of follow-up items here, but we'll test that. But I do know, this one was anonymous access, so anybody could join, so being joined at least through the Teams web view, they'd still be in Teams view and be able to do that here. I also got a question. Mike, will you be at Ignite? Would it be possible to meet you there? If I was there, yes. No, I'm not going to be at Ignite. So I would love to go. So if anybody knows anybody on the product team, get them to invite me and have me attend, I would love to. But yeah, no, I'm not there. So Dave, are you going to Ignite?
I wish. This is the first year now that I've left my company and joined Microsoft. This is the first year in probably 15 years that I've not gone to TechEd/Ignite. So, yeah.
That's kind of the curse. So there are people who the product team from the field likes to invite and have speak. I have a lot of friends on the product team, but I've only been to one as an employee. So that was years ago, and that was the Office team had me come. And if anybody remembers, there was a SharePoint conference in 2009, way back, and it was because they wanted me to dress up in my samurai outfit and run around, meet and greet people. So yeah, I haven't been, so I won't be there. It's going to be a great conference. I want to encourage everybody that can go there. Great event. I will be following along remotely and virtually and cheering you all on. I am planning, though, there are some events you'll be seeing more. That's why I was saying, please, please, please go to our blog site, join. There will be events getting posted, but there's going to be some live regional events that we're going to do, some one-to-many type things. And I've been getting pinged and asked to do some speaking at some additional events, and I'm looking to maybe get permission to go out and do some of that this year. So, again, join our little community / blog, and some of that will be coming. So more to come on that. But wish I could meet you there, Eric. If you know anybody on the product team, I'd be happy to change my plans and come.
Put a word in. I'll give one plug to a group. So since you brought up Ignite, for those that are going to Ignite, and especially if you go out solo and you want to network, there is a group that has been going to Ignite and Tech Eds before that for many, many years. And a group was formed back in, I want to say, 2007. It is called The Crew, THEKREWE. I highly recommend looking them up and connect with them, because they're on Facebook, but I want to say it's probably 2,500 members now as part of that group that just, they go every year from all around the world. There's even different parties that are set up and actually host their own party on Sunday night. So look them up and get your network going.
Very cool. So with that, Ignite, people that are going, The Crew, that's an awesome name. I love that. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna look to do some stuff here in the Northeast that we can begin to do some, live events. So be on the lookout. I forgot to update this slide right here, so I apologize. I've had a pretty packed week. The next session will be in 2 weeks. So as I look at my own personal calendar, that means the 17th. I'll have a link to that. I'll post that up. So August 17th will be the next session. Be on the lookout for that. I've already blocked it out on my calendar. I'm going to post an archive from today to LinkedIn. I will also post, and I didn't even update this. So again, we're on Dave, you got to smack me. I have fallen down, so I apologize, people. This slide needs to be updated. Join us on our health and life sciences on the techcommunities.microsoft.com. Not here. I'll have to update this, but I'm going to post, the archive will be up there. It'll also be posted out to LinkedIn, and I will take the slides from today and turn it into a PDF and post that as well. But with that, I want to thank you for joining us today. This has been Mike Giannotti, along with Dave Upton, bidding you have a great day. Take care, and as always, ciao.
Have a great weekend, everyone.